How do you know your frame size? Which size frame should you buy? Are all size 54 frames the same size? What about my body geometry? Does that make a difference? Now, these are the most common questions I have in my comments. So today, Romain from getabikefit.co.uk is going to help shed some light on this subject and explain how to choose a frame size and the main things that you should consider.
When you choose a frame, there is a lot of dimensions that are given to you. If you go on a website, any website, Giant, Canyon, or whatever brand you're looking at, they're all going to be giving you plenty of measurements based on the frame. So you're going to have top tube lengths, all that kind of measurements, head angle, seat tube angle. It can be a bit hard to understand them. So they give you those calculators and you put at best 3 or 4 measurements, at worst just your height, and they say this is where you should be riding. And off you go and buy the frame and realize that it's probably not right for you. There are a few things to know. The first thing is obviously get a bike fit. Just get a bike fit first, then you will know exactly what bike works for you. But not only the size, but also the geometry. Bikes comes in different geometries. You're gonna have, like this one, quite aggressive, racy position. Front end is a bit lower and a bit further. Or you're gonna have an endurance bike, which is a bit more relaxed. You're gonna have your handlebar slightly higher and probably a bit shorter as well. So all those dimensions will matter depending on how you need to be positioned on the bike. I would say the most important dimension to look for is the reach. Once you know your ideal reach, then use that as a reference for your other bikes. And the reach is the dimension from the center of the bottom bracket to the handlebar, but it is the horizontal dimension. This is probably the most important one. The stack, which is the other way around, so still from the bottom bracket to that point here, but the vertical one, that is also important, but you can potentially have a bit more adjustment without impacting the feel of the bike too much. But those are really the 2 main ones. But again, you need to know what you need. If you don't know what those measurements are for you, it kind of make it really hard to pick the correct size and the correct geometry.
Here you can see my reach before my bike fit and after my bike fit. On the left, the before, you can see my shoulders look hunched and my arms are straighter. I've also lost my neck. Now I have basically no neck visible. All of these points indicate that my reach is too long. My point being, finding your correct reach is difficult, but if you can't get a bike fit, at the bare minimum, at least record yourself from the side and check the footage back. You may be surprised. Here I am on my race bike after my bike fit with Romain, and you can see how the neck, arms and shoulders should look when you have the correct reach, as well as the correct fit all round, to be honest.
The sizing of the bikes as well, you'll find bikes coming in different sizes, but also different way of sizing the bikes. So some bikes like the Giant, for example, they're going to come as a small, medium, large, extra large. And other brands are going to come 51, 53, 55, or 52, 54, 56. Just have different things. And how do you know which one you are? That's where it becomes really tricky. The number is historically linked to steel frames, and the number was the size of the seat tube. So from the bottom bracket to that top section here, that was the measurement. So if you said you had a 54 centimeter frame, that means you would measure 54 here. Nowadays, there is not a single dimensions that measure that to that number, so it's quite hard. And it becomes even trickier because the sizes are not the same from one brand to another. So you can be a 54 in one brand and a 52 in another, or even a 51 or a 53. Try to forget those sizes and focus more on getting a bike fit that tells you what your position should be, and then matching those numbers to the frames that you're looking at. So handlebar width, that's also a big issue in bike sizing. The problem you'll find is the width of the handlebar is directly linked to the size of the bike. They think that the taller you are, the wider you are. So if you get a really small frame, you're gonna get a smaller handlebar or narrower handlebar than you would get if you get a large frame. As a general rule, they're always too wide. Don't know how those calculations are made, but that's usually what we found. For example, the bike that fits me when I order it new is 42 centimeters, like what this bar is set up as right now. If you measure that 42 on my acromion, so the shoulder width and those bones here, and you look here, they actually match quite well. So you'd say that it fits nicely. The problem is I roll my shoulder when I ride, and suddenly if I roll the shoulder, then 42 is now too wide. So I do need a 40 centimeters wide handlebar. And if you buy a bike that has just a standard handlebar, it's easy, you just get a new one, put your shifters on. It's relatively quick and relatively cheap change. If you, however, have something like this, and you've got fully integrated cable, you've got internal routed cable, one piece bar and stem, that could be easily £1,000 between the hardware and the guys doing the change, and they're gonna hate you for that. They usually don't really like the work that is involved in changing something like that. So make sure that handlebar width is correct. It could generate a lot of issues. You have pins and needles, tension in the neck, tension in the shoulder, and many more issues that can occur from a handlebar that is too wide. So make sure you get the correct width. Get on the bike, get somebody to measure your shoulder width. That is a good indication of where it needs to be. When you look online, they might ask you, you're gonna have different calculators. At worst, it's just gonna be a table and you look at your height and it gives you the size. But in some brands are offering a bit more to the calculator. You need to input a bit more information. They're gonna ask, for example, your height and your inseam. So the inseam is the length of your legs measured from the inner legs. Again, we go back to the historic where we talked about bike sizing, where historically the number was that seat tube. It's kind of still related to the 70s. Check your inseam and they give you your bike size. It's not like that anymore. There is a lot more to that. Those calculators, they can be interesting to give you an idea of where you need to be, but they don't take into consideration your flexibility, your capabilities, how long you've been cycling, can you hold the position, and all those different, what injuries you've had. All those parameters will impact your position on the bike. So you can end up with a bike that is the wrong size just because of an issue you had in the past, or because you simply don't have the flexibility to reach those really far handlebar, or also the use of the bike. What is your cycling goal? If you say you just want to ride for leisure and go on 60, 70, 80, even 100 miles ride, but you're not racing, it's going to be a different position than if you're doing crit racing, or if you're just going 1 hour full on 3 times a week. So that will impact the position, which will therefore impact the geometry. Know the position you should be in for the ride you will be doing, and then get the bike to match that setup. Your body geometry as well can impact the sizing of the bike. The problem with those calculators is they're gonna put everybody in the same basket. But if you take 2 cyclists, let's say 5'8", gonna have the same bike size based on those calculators, but one of them might have shorter legs, longer torso, and the other one might have longer arms and shorter legs. So those calculators will not take that into consideration. Those cyclists might be completely different shape as well, and they might have different goals, and they might have different flexibility, different strengths. So it's hard to actually just find the size by looking at a person, and actually those calculators don't even look at you. They just wait for you to say, I'm that tall, I've got that inseam. Some of them go a bit deeper, asking arm lengths and different other dimensions, which could refine it, but it goes down to the point how those sizes defined to start with. We tend to see overall that the bikes are usually a bit too big. So if you're in between sizes, as a rule of thumb, a bit better to go for the smaller size, just because it's easier to make a bike bigger than it is to make a bike smaller.
To see a full bike fit, check out this video next. It shows the process from start to finish with full before and after shots. A big thank you to Romain from getabikefit.co.uk. A link to Romain's website is in the description below. I shall see you in the next one.